And in 1971, his status jumped from action hero to cultural icon, thanks to the most controversial film of his career. Dirty Harry almost became a project for Frank Sinatra when the producer's earlier choice, Eastwood, wasn't available.
They called back and said, by the way, are you still interested? And I said, what happened to Frank? And I said, Frank is having problems with his hand or something like that, and he can't hold a gun right now, and he can't do it. They said, we'd like you to bring that guy, Don Siegel, who I had worked with. You like him, don't you? And I said, I like him a lot. So we were off and running.
Eastwood loved bringing tight-lipped humor and a sense of danger to the character of Detective Harry Callahan, who cleans up the streets of San Francisco by breaking every rule in the book.
This is a movie about a couple of killers. Harry Callahan and a homicidal maniac. The one with the badge is Harry.
Oh! We're talking a period in American life that was full of violence. The police were handicapped to a degree by, you know, the niceties of the Miranda decision and all that.
The girl, where is she?
You tried to kill me!
If I tried that, your head would be splattered all over this field. Now, where's the girl?
I wasn't.
I said, where's the girl?
Right,
There weren't too many movies at that time that were concerned about the victims of violent crime. They were more interested in the perpetrator. So it was about a guy who was obsessed about the victim. And so that, to me, made it appealing.
Now, the suspect's rights were violated.
And Anne Mary Deacon, what about her rights? I mean, she's raped and left in a hole to die. Who speaks for her?
In Dirty Harry, something else happened. It was a policeman taking the law into his own hands. This, I think, was one of the few times that was ever attempted. The way they worked on it, Eastwood and Siegel, as a kind of a moral rage and disgust for the criminals, you know, and in a way, it's a human impulse. To see someone do something to someone you love, you may become violent at that person. And he was our hero.
He's not really like your traditional good guy. There's a real dark quality to his good guy image.
Every great star needs a moment in which his image just coalesces around the scene.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
That's the moment. That's the moment in which he ceases to be a star and he becomes a superstar.
Hey. I got to know.
When Dirty Harry opened in 1971, the film became an instant blockbuster and a political powder keg. Although many reviewers praised the film, Clint Eastwood was reviled by some critics who considered Harry Callahan a fascist vigilante.
Yes, it was controversial. Maybe it's still controversial. But Dirty Harry Callahan is essentially a moral guy. He's a moral guy dealing with a society that is increasingly violent and out of control.
41-year-old Clint was politically conservative and felt honored when President Richard Nixon appointed the actor to the National Council on the Arts. But contrary to his critics, Eastwood was no extremist. In fact, he was passionately anti-censorship.
Hi, I'm Clint Eastwood. And I think I owe it to you as a moviegoer to tell you a little bit about Proposition 18. Proposition 18 is a so-called obscenity initiative that is nothing more really than a smokescreen for censorship. Unless you and I vote no on 18, it can end the making of fine films here in California. So join me and vote no on thought control and on censorship. Vote no on Proposition 18. Thank you.
What did you say your name was again?
I didn't.
In 1973's High Plains Drifter, which he also directed, Clint expanded on Dirty Harry's theme of rough justice,
Who are you?
playing a mythic Western avenger.
Well, I was just stopping by for a bottle of whiskey and a nice hot bath.
All right, if you say so. Be careful. You're a man who makes people afraid, and that's dangerous.
Well, it's what people know about themselves inside that makes them afraid.
Eastwood is back in full force as Dirty Harry in Magnum Force.
That same year, the 42-year-old responded to critics of Dirty Harry Callahan with the sequel, Magnum Force.
There are killers on the loose, dressed like cops, and they always use a Magnum.
This time, Harry was the most law-abiding cop on screen as he battles a band of secret vigilantes.
He likes things that, push the envelope. To see if there's something you can do with classic forms that's a little bit novel.
Let each of us study to improve ourselves.
Eastwood stayed in commercial stride with Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, co-starring Jeff Bridges, and the mountain-climbing thriller, The Eiger Sanction, which he also directed. By now, the 45-year-old had set up an independent production office at Warner Brothers. He felt as confident behind the camera as in front of it. And when he and director Philip Kaufman began to disagree creatively during Clint's next film, The Outlaw Josie Wales, its producer-star felt he had to make a change.
Phil is a very, very fine director, but he had a different outlook on it than I did. And so, because I'd put my own money into this story and everything, I just ended up doing it myself.
He lives by the gun. He lives by his word. And he lives for revenge. He's an army of one. Clint Eastwood is the outlaw Josie Wales.
With Eastwood at the reins, the story of a Civil War farmer unfairly hunted by the law became one of Clint's proudest achievements. It was also a character that echoed his early years, spent constantly on the move.
This story was very appealing, of a guy who was kind of resistant to any kind of family or any kind of deep friendships, because he kept losing. Every time he'd make friends with somebody, they'd die off.
If I get to liking someone, they ain't around long.
I notice when you get to disliking someone, they ain't around for long either.
Finally, the irony is he ends up with leading this little commune kind of group.
He was out for revenge, and they were out for his blood. And when you're an outlaw, there's no turning back.
You're all alone now, Wales.
Not quite alone.
Okay, Clint, can we see you in your position, please?
Behind the camera, Clint was forming his own creative family, which included such frequently appearing actors as Jeffrey Lewis, Albert Popwell, and Bill McKinney.
You don't hear any shouting on the set. It's always low-key. Sometimes it's so low-key you can't hear when the guy says action.
Okay, action!
And you think you're rehearsing this scene, and all of a sudden they're breaking it down and moving over, because it just happens so fast. We had a 10-week guarantee on Josie Wales. He brought it in 8 weeks.
Look around, honey. Slowly, slowly look up at the man on horseback. Stay looking. Cut.
Featured in the cast of The Outlaw Josie Wales was a 28-year-old actress named Sandra Locke, who'd received a 1968 Oscar nomination for her role in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Eastwood was impressed with Locke's talent and her ability to convey doe-eyed vulnerability on screen.
San Francisco is the only city with a cop like Dirty Harry.
You don't give up, do you?
Sometimes.
Not you.
In 1976, after starring in The Enforcer, his third outing as Dirty Harry Callahan, Clint now had the confidence and the financial clout to experiment with his screen image.
There are very few stars who have the kind of relationship he's had at Warner Brothers. And Clint finds something he wants to do and says, this is what I'm doing. And they say, well, okay.